Welcome. Thank you for joining the Live in Divine Harmony podcast. I'm Carmen, your divine synergist of Heart's Joy. I'm a spiritual leader of purpose and a numerologist. I help those who are turned off by church, who are seeking connection, fulfillment, joy, and purpose, who may be feeling frustrated instead of experiencing joy daily. They want to fit in and will do anything to feel good, but it's not authentically who they are or what they want. Through coaching programs and events, I guide my clients to live their purpose and live intentionally every day, leading to a fulfilled and joyful life. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for notifications so you never miss another episode. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Live in Divine Harmony podcast. This is our 150th episode, which is mind blowing for me when I realized that this is the 150th episode. And I thought to myself, what topic shall we cover today? And as I started to interact with people on social media and see some recent posts online from those who I follow. And honestly, at this point, I get a lot from people who I don't follow. That's the new algorithm. I am noticing a trend of how people are sharing information, and especially on socials, because really that's the one forum for people, the majority of people, I'll say, because not everyone is on social media, the majority of people to go and voice their opinion. And I for the most part know the hearts of those in my news feeds who I may know on a personal level. And I see a lot of people creating division when they're yelling about unity. And in some cases, I've hopped in comment sections. I've offered to speak with people one on one, which, no surprise, they have not taken me up on it, and really pushed back on the status quo of what the narrative is online. And it took me a few days before I am here now recording this. I wanted to make sure I was in a good energy frequency, and I don't even want to say good. I was in the highest energy frequency possible to share the message today with you. And, back in I think it was 2021, I had a public meltdown about the division that I was experiencing at the time and how I was uninvited to gatherings. And now, so at that time, I really didn't understand where this division was coming from. And frankly, if you've known me throughout the years, you know that I am all about unity. I've always been all about unity. Um, it's my heart, and it's what I see. And now that I'm starting to understand the division, what the division is, truly what it means, both here on Earth, right, in this 3D world, and then at a fifth dimensional level too. And really am starting to understand that bigger picture, which I will share with you here in a little bit. It really shifts my perspective on what this division is. And frankly, back in 2020 is when I really started to see that. I call it my political awakening. How this division is truly man-made, why it was man-made, who was creating it. And now here in 2025, everything has shifted for me personally. And I'd like to share with you what I've learned, with the goal that you too can start to have a different perspective if you choose, because it's all choice. And how you start to interact with people will change as well. Now, you've most likely heard the phrase, you have to stand for something or you will fall for anything. And for me, what's interesting about that phrase is stand for something. And this was part of a comment that was made on one of my social media pages a few years ago. And I remember that I had made a post about taking a stand and how it was different than a position. And I thought this is the topic for this 150th episode. Because this stands the test of time, which time is man-made. And it is a teaching that is going to be true no matter today or 100 years from now. So in this episode, I'll share the difference between taking a stand versus taking a position. What is taking a stand? Why is it important? And actually, how to do it. I had someone who asked that question, and I wanted to wait until after this episode to say, here is how you take a stand. And by the way, this is something that I learned how to do several years ago. And I remember when I was first taught how to do it, it's kind of like, okay, because when you look at the people throughout the years who have actually truly done it, which we'll talk about as well, it's for me, it's kind of mind-blowing because I didn't think about it in that way. And then it's like, well, I want to make sure that I'm taking a stand, not a position, which creates division online. I feel like that's part of my responsibility, both as a human being and as a business owner as well, because I know that people consume the content that I put out there. And I was even gently reminded, and I think it was 2021, um, whenever masks were being heavily pushed, I had a very strong opinion about it. I have a very strong opinion about a lot of things, if you didn't know that yet. And, I go back in class and am in contribution, and one of the guys had brought it to my attention that I was not taking a stand. I was truly taking a position, and that was causing that division. And ever since then, I have checked myself 100% that that's not my goal. And my goal is always to take a stand instead. So, by the way, if you do see certain comments on that I've made throughout socials, that's what I'm doing. The goal is to either get you to think, to shift, and I don't always comment on everything that I see. In fact, I've unfollowed a lot of people, I've defriended a lot of people, I have muted a lot of people. I love the mute, by the way. And it's it's frankly for my own sanity as well, and to still hold space in the container on social media. And when I say on social media, on all the different platforms. So, this is where we find ourselves today as we continue to divide ourselves, because this was taught to us. There are certain, most of society, let's just say, that has purposefully created it so that there is a division. And it's so interesting because then we end up doing it ourselves too, which is honestly their end goal. It is ultimately their end result goal. And in most cases, we think we're creating unity. And I really started to see this in 2020 with the Black Lives Matters movement and other movements as well, that it's kind of like, do you actually realize that you're yelling for unity and wanting unity, and I do too, yet you're also creating division at the same time, and most people don't even realize it, and they don't realize what they're doing. And It's our ego wanting control. It's our ego wanting to be right. It's our ego creating the division. And when we're in that egoic energy, remember everything's an energy frequency, we cannot see it for ourselves. And frankly, most of the time, we can't see certain things for ourselves until it's brought to our attention, especially how we come across, how we are presenting to the world. Most of us think that, oh, well, I think that I'm creating connection. I think that I'm, creating peace and joy and love. And in actuality, you are not. You absolutely are not. And this is what I'm seeing so many people doing right now. And they're literally yelling. And I say yelling because they are yelling to the rooftops on social about how horrible Trump is, how horrible the policies are, how the world is going to end. And I'm embellishing, of course, the last one a little bit because it's not ending, by the way, at all. Things are literally crumbling. The old is crumbling. It started to crumble in 2020, and now we're seeing it crumble and be rebuilt. And a lot of people think we are in the worst disaster in the history of the United States. I I see it everywhere and I feel the fear. I understand where people are coming from when they say that. And I also want to share that I understand how it appears and how it seems. And I don't feel like we are at all. Not with what I know, not with what I trust to be true, what I know is truth. Everything happens in cycles, and we talk about this in astrology. When you look at the different cycles of astrology, and people say the history repeats itself. It's because everything has a cycle. I remember back in marketing class at Purdue that they were talking about the life cycle of a business. And literally, it's very similar to a person's cycle of life itself. And that's how I am viewing the situation right now. And I trust and know that it's all working out in my highest and best good. It doesn't mean that I have to understand everything. I absolutely do not. That also is ego. And I can also get to neutral, which most people cannot. They don't know how. And two, some of them, a lot of them actually that do know how are choosing not to at all. So I have seen, and you've seen it too, right? Everybody's angry about everything that's happening right now. There's a lot of fear, energetic frequency that's going on in society right now. And my one point right now is that that is all based by design. It's a way of energy harvesting. So how can you shift out of that? And if you need to hop off social media, then hop off social media. So many people are doing that right now. I get it. So I want to talk about the difference between taking a stand, taking a position, what is taking a stand, why is it important, and how to actually take a stand. I love the comments on my post because when I shared about a week or so ago that I would be speaking on this topic, I've had several people comment or reach out. Just got a comment today, that taking a stand is taking a position. It's actually not. I take a stand for people all the time, for them to have something different in their life. That has absolutely nothing to do with me. That is, I do it in all different areas of my life, right? Because it's really not about me. It's taking a stand for your vision, for what you want in your life, for what is for the highest path. I'm simply using that as an example to help you potentially see, right, the difference between taking a stand in a position, which we'll talk about here in a moment. So let's actually talk about a position. A position is it it's really comes from the I'm right, you're wrong angle perspective. It comes out of victim energy frequency. It comes from the ego wanting to have control, wanting to be right. You must hear me. Um, I know everything. There is no one else's there is nothing else to look at, no other perspectives. There's an entitlement energy to it. And I saw the other day, someone I follow had shared. It almost looked like maybe somebody took a screenshot of a post someone had made and she shared it as it was truth. And it wasn't. And someone called her out in the comments and said, that actually never happened. And it's not like it happened and they deleted it. It truly never happened. And that's the key with AI today is having that discernment. It's so easy today to read something on social media and immediately think to yourself that it's true. And then you find yourself getting angry, right? This is where I'm using this as an example because it will throw people back into that victim energy frequency where you get angry about something you just read. You chose not to do any research because it's truth for you in your mind. And then you end up sharing that information on socials, and immediately, potentially, other people get angry as well. And so it begins. And then somehow, maybe later on down the road, you find out that what you shared was either not true at all, or there was, potentially some partial truth to it. And by then, it's way too late to take back not only the wrong information that you shared, simply the energy of the information that you shared. And that is, you are stating your position online. Look at the political parties. It is, I have this position on this side, on the left side, and the right side has its own position. And the question is, did anybody really take a stand? And that in my perspective right now, that's starting to happen. It just doesn't look that way because there's a lot of other truths that the majority people don't know about and or don't see as true. Why? Well, there's multiple reasons for that. There's been a lot of brainwashing washing happening for years, programming per se, which is the brainwashing. And I know people who, if it's not shared on legacy media, I've stopped calling it mainstream media, right? It's literally legacy media, then it's not truth. And that's where we get into trouble because we've stopped doing our homework. We've stopped doing research and, even where we do our research as well, makes a big difference too. So it's the other thing is a lot of us do have that ego, and it's how do we leave out our ego from it, which it can be hard. It can be hard for a lot of people. It's so interesting how I've offered to help certain people who have said, "Hey, help me understand this." And I've said, "Hey, actually, let's hop on a call." And I never heard back from this person. I was attacked in the comment section from one of their friends. And I said, this right here is exactly why it's dangerous to do this on social media. And no matter what, people are going to use social media however they want. They're going to do whatever they want. And how can you, when you do post, when you do comment, how can you take a stand for how can you take a stand? Let's just say that. I've shared this before that the world is designed for us to live in victimhood, in this victim energy. It is literally a way of how you are controlled and manipulated. And sometimes we can't even see the good because it's clouded by our ego. It's driven by irrational fear. Two keywords there: irrational fear. Fear is created by, the idea, the illusion that there's separation. That is something that church is great at doing when there is no separation at all. You have the power to choose in any given moment. Anything. Choosing, by making a choice, you reclaim your power. And it literally shifts the energy. So, how can you choose something different? And honestly, the question is, why aren't you choosing something different? Because a lot of people are getting their payoffs. They just want other people to feed into and make them feel better by saying, "Yeah, you're right. Yes, I agree with you." And so other people are buying into that narrative and they're giving that person their payoffs. We literally have information flying at us everywhere these days, everywhere. In fact, it used to be, I think, 7 touch points for marketing, and now it's like 10 to 12 because that's how much information people have coming at them literally from every direction these days. And we also have literally a library at our fingertips. We did not have this when I was growing up. We had a physical library. You had a library card, you went there, you did the research, and you you now have in the moment access to information. Except people are using that and they're driven by the ego. They're driven by the you have to listen to me. Instead of getting curious and asking questions, they immediately make a statement of what happened without waiting, because we are so conditioned that it's got to be now in the moment, and it does not at all. I will share that Google is a controlled library. I know that that's now a verb that we use, and it is literally a controlled library. They decide what we see. They decide the information that's out there. And if you're curious as to why, always go follow the money. See who owns it. What's their stake in doing that? There's also other search engines that you can use instead. I always ask myself, what's my goal for sharing information? What is my focus, right? And how am I focusing my energy? I actually am spending more time on Instagram than I am Facebook, and less time in general overall. Sharing that to say that, especially my stories, you will find that I share a gamut of things in the stories and on Instagram. And it can be anything from animals to veganism to flowers to birds. There's a reason why I'm sharing what I'm sharing, though. There's always an end goal. And maybe it's just to share this because I think the squirrel's really cute, or I really love the new squirrel boxes, the new account that I found, and the fact that they make these squirrel boxes. Or there's truly information that I'm sharing with you. And when you start to ask yourself, where are you focusing your energy? That is going to help you shift as well. That's going to help you, one, rein in your energy and see, wow, I am spending a ton of time just blasting people on social media. And I'm just using social media because really that's where a lot of this is happening right now. And then maybe other areas of their life are waning because they're so focused of you have to hear me right now. When you're in victimhood, it's a low frequency. You cannot live your divine purpose. You simply cannot. The victimhood energy, there is no possibilities at all. That's ego. It's all about you. You can't make a difference for anybody else at all. Um, you're simply spewing is all you're doing. at that point. When you live from your body, you're showing people who you are. It's your way of being. And talk about this in the mini masterclass and the masterclass of how you're creating every day. It does not start with your thoughts. It actually starts two other places before that. Thoughts are incredibly powerful. Words are incredibly powerful. And how can you live from your body? And when you start to shift into your body, when you start to live from your heart and take that action from your heart and start to show people who you are, it's easier to take a stand that way. So, what is taking a stand? How do you take a stand? Three points. Taking a stand is speaking truth from the perspective of how does this benefit everyone? You're talking about it in a neutral standpoint. You're looking at the bigger picture. You're looking at possibility. What about this? Consider if we did this. We together, it is the everybody. It's not about me. You're not making it about yourself. You're not making it about them. This is a we. We are all in this together as a stand, taking a stand for each other. When you're taking a position, you're saying, if you do this, then this happens. It's right or wrong. It's, I have to be right. It's defensiveness. Taking a stand is what is. This is, right? This topic is. So, great example, let's use child trafficking. And when you're taking a stand for child trafficking, you're really taking a stand for everyone involved, not just the kids who are being trafficked, for every single person on the planet. And by the way, you will be misunderstood. You will be absolutely hated when you take a stand because people aren't used to it. They want you so desperately to take a side. I experience this all the time. People get so angry with me because I won't take a side. And I can sit here and explain to you, look, I see both sides. And here in reality, it's really this. What is. But people don't want to hear that at all. They have to be right. That is that ego. Taking a stand is empowering. It's inspiring. When you're taking a position, you may be a little inspired, but you're definitely creating division. Division is not inspiring at all. We see this, we have seen this throughout time. And it's even to the point where it was created, the division was created on purpose, and now we're just simply fostering it because it's all we know how to do, unfortunately, which is why I wanted to actually do a podcast episode, not just a social media post, about what is taking a stand. And the one person for me who comes to mind who took a stand that a lot of people know is Martin Luther King Jr. And he was not liked at all. And that is one of the most famous speeches, I'm going to say, in the world. And he took a stand not just for one group of people in society. When you actually listen and or read the entire speech, because we only pick out the pieces that benefit us. When you go back and you read and or listen the entire speech, he is taking a stand for every human, everyone. And by the way, when you talk about freedom, we all have been enslaved. We think that we have freedom and we don't. And I'm happy to do a whole podcast about that too. When you look at all the bits and pieces of society and really dig into it, none of us are free until you free your soul, which is what I've been learning from Leanna Shanti. How to truly free your soul, how to truly be sovereign and live a sovereign life here on planet Earth, because it is possible. And it's so interesting when people take a stand. What I hear is, oh, well, that's just all egoic, or because Leanna takes a stand a lot. And at first I was like, what is she talking about? I didn't quite understand it until I started to take classes. And then I understood it. And it's like, this is not her ego. She is simply saying, this is a truth. This is wrong. And I'm going to take a stand for it. Not, I'm wrong, you're right. But morally, this is wrong. And I'm going to stand up for it. And that's what this is all about. You know, I mentioned earlier this year that having compassion is important because of the massive amount of change we're experiencing. And it's okay for us to not understand the changes. It's okay. And that's so badly what I want to say to everybody is it's okay. And I'm simply just showing up in compassion, offering, um, hey, if you want to talk about it, if you just want me to listen, like whatever that looks like for you. Some people are not open to it at all. They don't want to hear the reality. That's very hard for them. That's actually something that I mentioned several months ago, actually years ago now at this point, online, that, when people started to find out the truth, they're going to have a really difficult time with it. And this is what's happening now. You can take a stand and have compassion at the same time. You can. You can have compassion with every single thing you do. It's all a choice. Always speak truth. And when I say that, I'm talking about the universal truth. Get out of the well, no, technically XYZ happened, so you're wrong. Get out of that. What is ultimately the truth? And I will say that there are some things that will be happening that a lot of people are just not going to be able to handle. And that's why I want to have this conversation now instead of when it happens here in the future. Let's have this conversation now. I'm here to help you work through this if you choose. I talked about the division in the 3D sense, and now I'm starting to understand the division in the fifth dimensional sense, in that realm, if you will. So let's talk about all of this on a whole spiritual level. And when I started to learn back in the fall of 2023 that the energy frequency split started then, it was interesting because I started to see it with some of the people who I was spending time with at the time. And I shared it with them. And what the energy frequency split is the people who are connected to, let's say, a lower timeline, lower energy frequencies. It's based on the decisions that they're making, the actions that they're taking. They're actually connected to those lower frequencies. They're going to continue to drop lower and lower and lower into those frequencies versus the people who have chosen a different path, which is to get connected to a different grid of frequencies, if you will. Then they're going to go along. They're going to continue to ascend in a way. Ascend not physically, it's all energy frequency. And there's a great post that I recently shared on my Instagram, and it was a post from Leanna Shanti, 10 points, that talks about this. And it talks about the spiritual truths. You can go to the highlights on my Instagram stories and go back and read through that and ask yourself, are you participating in any of those, anything listed in there? And that will give you a guideline, if you will, let you know where you are. Are you in this higher path, going along this higher path, or have you dropped down into this lower path? And when Leanna had shared that with us back in 2023, that was a huge eye opener for me because I didn't want to stay in this 3D level energy. I didn't want it. And I made certain decisions then that changed the trajectory for me. And essentially, what it is the lower frequencies are the satanic frequencies, and the higher frequencies is what she calls the true Jesus frequencies. And they're really simple to do, except our mind gets in the way. Our ego gets in the way when we look at it, and we get triggered by it. And I find it so interesting how many people who tell me that they're Christian, they have good hearts, right? But they're Christian and they're still doing most of those things on the list that I, said, hey, go check out this list. There's 10 of them out there. They're still doing it. They're out there taking positions. They're out there wanting to do good in the world. They have good hearts, yet they're so still tied into that satanic frequency that they don't even realize it. They have no idea. And there is absolutely no freedom in that at all, which is partly why it's so hard for them to take a stand. They can't take a stand. They don't even know what to take a stand on because they aren't even sure of what that spiritual truth itself is. So how can you take a stand if you aren't even sure what it is? And if you're tied into the new age narrative, you definitely can't take a stand. You think you are. You think you're creating unity. You think you're creating the love and light. I did. I was there. Not there anymore. This all comes back down to you. It comes back down to your authentic self. It comes down to the beliefs that you've been programmed with. Have you deprogrammed yourself and reprogrammed yourself? Because you can. Are you truly living your divine purpose, that bigger purpose? Or are you simply out there chasing money, chasing a dream, thinking that you're living the best life? And the beautiful thing about all of this is now is the time. Now you have a choice. If you're listening to this podcast right now, know that you have a choice. This honestly is partly why I made all of my programs instant access now. All of them are available now. The in-person of there will still be in-person events, and the idea is that you have the programs to take now. You have access to those programs for the lifetime of the actual program. For as long as I'm offering it, you have available the masterclass and the Live on Purpose programs. I will go live in those programs throughout the year. You will know when I will be live in there, and don't wait for the lives to happen. This work is so incredibly important right now. It's also really difficult to take a stand when you don't even know who you are and you have no idea what your purpose is. Or you kind of think you know what your purpose is, but you're still wavering back and forth and there's no clarity around it at all. It's no different than getting clarity around for a business owner who they're talking to. It's just like throwing wet spaghetti against the wall. They're throwing out content, hoping, wishing that someone will pay them for the content that they're putting out there. And they're simply talking to the wrong person. It could be fabulous content and they're talking to the wrong person. It is literally the exact same thing. And to get clear, there's truth. And sometimes that is hard to get to the truth. We let go of versions of who we used to be. We let go of who we thought we were. We let go of who people told us that we were. Really, they told us who they wanted us to be, and we're not that person. This is why getting out of that head, that mind, while it is helpful at times, it is unhelpful most of the day. Get into your body, into your heart. If you would like help on how to do that, reach out. You join the online community, ask those questions in there. Now is the time for you to live your authentic truth and take a stand for who you are authentically and live your divine purpose intentionally every single day. Until next time, sending you much love.